This week on the building series, we're putting an exterior finish on our building. Join me and see what a fun project this can be. Alright, so here's our building as we left off last week. We have the two halves put together and they are primed. We have the deck put together. So we really have three pieces. Hopefully this odd camera angle is going to work for this portion. Normally I would go ahead and do my exterior wall treatment and or my interior. I do the wiring, I do the interior walls, and I get everything all finished and then I glue it to a base. But because of the way this is put together, we have two pieces of building that need to be put together before I can do an exterior wall treatment and or interior walls. Because if I don't put them together, I'm always going to have a seam here. So this, and then when you look at what we're putting together, it's just this wall and the floor is all that glues against this building. So after debating with myself for several days, I've come to the conclusion that I need to glue this to the baseboard before I go any further. So that's the first thing we are doing today. So I bought a board. I actually bought a 2 foot by 4 foot piece of, I believe it's 1/4 inch or thereabouts MDF at Home Depot. And I had them cut it into two by 2 foot squares. So we're going to use one of those squares today. Then came the puzzle of how do I glue these little teeny edges onto this board and have it be secure. Well, I have these blocks. I have these little wooden blocks. Are those, yeah, they're where you can see them. And I decided, okay, if I glue some of these onto my base, lined up with the base, with the edge, then these can be glued to here, to the board, and that in conjunction with being glued to the structure next to it should hold everything together. So the first step I'm going to do, I'll do a couple of them now and then I'll glue the rest off camera. I am going to glue some of these blocks with my, and I'm just going to use my wood glue this time, because that'll make a nice strong bond. I am going to glue this, and I'm going to be very careful that I line it up with the bottom edge of the basically basement area or foundation area of my building. So I'm going to put probably 3 on each of these sides. Maybe 4. I think I'll do 4 on this side anyway. I've got more of these blocks. These were in, these were something that was in my stash of little miscellaneous wood pieces. I bought them for another project, used what I needed for that project, and I had these left. So I'm going to make sure these are lined up. I'm going to let these dry. I'll do the same thing on the other 2 walls. When those are dry, I'll be back and we'll glue this down. Alright, so now this glue is dry enough that I can glue it down. So what this, I don't remember if I mentioned why I was doing this. If I was going to try and glue this structure down with just these little edges, it wouldn't be very stable. Now these are glued here, and I can glue this to the wall, and that will help me to have everything be stable. So take my wood glue again, and I'm going to get glue on the bottoms of all of these and around And it doesn't have to be particularly neat because I can cover up any glue boogers that I can't clean up. This goes this way. I want to have it and I'm also going to put glue on this side. Oops. Off camera, I'll come over and kind of get behind this and kind of wipe up any mess on the inside. Now, this one has the big piece. Yeah, you can see that. The main building has a flat bottom, so I'm just going to get that like that. And oops, get that lined up. And I need to get behind this and make sure everything's straight, but once I get this set, then I'll let the glue dry overnight, and then we can start doing our exterior finish. Alright, so since this glue it's not completely dry, but it's almost dry, I'm going to go ahead and caulk the outside of this seam so that this will be nice and secure and ready to do. Oops, that's not completely dry. Not completely glued there. Oh, this will help. Get the caulking in there, and then I'll get the inside, and then it will be ready to do our outside finish when this is set up. Alright, so now that the caulking is dry, the glue is dry, this is nice and sturdy. I'm going to attempt to work. Let's see, let me get this back a little ways. Hopefully it's light enough. Let's see, maybe we'll work over here. Try and decide where I'm going to work so you guys can see the easiest. Let's raise the camera just a little bit. There we go. So I have paint. I went down to Home Depot and I got one of their little sample things of paint. I love this for doing dollhouse stuff. We have paint, we have a brush, there's the brush, and we have Kleenexes. And cheaper is better on these tissues because we want thin. We're just going to tear it up. We want little pieces. And I've done this finish on a couple of different structures in the past, and it always looks really cool when it's done. So spread an area with paint. The paint is going to kind of glue the tissue down and give us some texture. And it's, some people call it a stucco. I wouldn't really call this a stucco finish per se. I guess it is in a way, but I'm not too worried about getting paint down on my board. If you got too much, just tear it. We don't want too much Kleenex, but we want enough that it's kind of covering the area. This paint I bought, it's a tintable, regular latex paint. I love using these little tintable, consider them to be samples for their regular size paint. You can get them tinted in almost any color. They can do full-size house paint in. So it's just nice to have that option of having that many choices for your colors. And this little container, it holds about a cup of paint. It was under $3. So very economical. There'll be plenty here to do this structure and have leftover for another structure at a later date. So this is how this all goes on. I am going to continue off camera when I get all the way done and this is dry. I'll come back. Alright, so I've coated the whole building. So far it looks really rough. Next step, we need to put another coat of paint on. I'm just going to brush another coat right over And that will do two things. It will help to seal this down even better. And it will help to just give a, you know, another coat. After this dries, and I've got loose places. This is another thing I want to do the second coat for, is any loose little corners like that. I want to get kind of fastened down like there. Hopefully you're seeing. No, you're not seeing that part. There's a loose piece there. I'm going to put down. And pretty much this coat is just to kind of seal. After this coat dries, then I'll tear off these extra pieces and put on another coat of paint and let that dry. So once this is dry, I'll come back, we'll trim this up, and we'll go on to the next step. Alright, so this has had actually a couple of days to dry because it's been a busy week. So now, the next thing I need to do is just take off the excess tissue around the edges. And let's see if I can turn the camera. Hopefully I won't make you ignore the mess in the background. I'm still in the process of getting this room set up. And where I've got windows, I'm just going to cut this. I made sure that I didn't have wet paint on the window framing. And then I'll go through off camera, I'll go through and I'll neaten up these edges because I don't want tissue sticking into those areas. All this excess off, and after I get all the excess tissue off, get this area cleaned up pretty well. The only top edge that will matter, try not to make you seasick here, is this one. All the rest of these top edges are going to be covered by roof. This edge, the very back edge, and then the door openings are the only ones that will be really visible. So on those, I'll be a little more careful to make sure everything is covered. But for the most part, it's a matter of just getting the loose Kleenex tissue off and putting another coat of paint on, which my paint is right here. If I get the lid off, get it stirred up. This does take a bit more paint than it would to just paint it because the tissue actually soaked up a lot. And just put another coat of paint on. Once this is all done, I'll let it dry, and then we'll see what we do next week. I think next week we'll probably work on the wiring, or else I'll construct the doors. I'm not sure. So come back next week and see what we do then. Be sure and check the blog post, and be sure and visit us on Facebook. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.